So I'm here with Patrick Rife, one of the co-founders of Pixilated. Patrick, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Sulo. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. So my first question is, how much have we been able to make you directly working with us?
I think that it's been 4 or 5 months now since we've been working together. And, like it started in the slow period of our season and we've moved into the busy part of our season. But I think at this point in time, it's somewhere around, I think when we started, our Klaviyo account was generating around 10 grand a month. And I think at this point in time, we're pretty consistently generating around 30 grand a month. So, a pretty significant increase in revenue that's attributed back to our efforts in Klaviyo and email marketing.
Awesome. That's good to hear. Where were you before working with us in terms of like main problems you were trying to solve?
Yeah, so we had been working with Klaviyo for I guess right around now would be a year. We're doing this interview at the middle towards the end of June 2023. So when we had migrated our e-commerce and our kind of whole website from Squarespace completely into Shopify because we were doubling down on driving everything into an e-commerce direction. That's when we choose to move over from MailChimp to Klaviyo because we had understood that Klaviyo was a superior tool when it came to e-commerce email marketing. So we weren't novices when it came to email marketing, but we were far from pros when it came to it. So the first 6 months we did a lot of best practices and table stake kind of getting things set up. But I think we always had a sneaking suspicion that that setting up flows, the appropriate flows, was going to have a really big impact on our business, and that also just having someone with a more nuanced understanding of the e-commerce email marketing niche was going to help us. And Nick and I, we're always trying to roll up our sleeves and figure things out for ourselves, but when we were looking at it and realizing how deep that nuance is, we realized that there was an opportunity that was there and that the opportunity costs were going to grow tremendously for us to continue just kind of feeling around in the dark. And so I had actually been looking, and I think I said this when we first talked, Sulo, I had been looking for someone like you and the Email Desire team that we felt like we could get on the same page with and really trust, but would bring the value, bring the knowledge, bring the experience with it, and not have it be, like the Twitter marketers that you see everywhere that are trying to, talk about Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and all of the things. What we wanted was excellence. We had a hunch that it was really worth investing in bringing in experts to help us move more quickly through it. And I would say that our hunch has definitely paid off up to this point.
That's great to hear. That's great to hear. What was your overall take on the quality of the flows and campaigns that we made for you?
I think they've been really great. One of the things, I think coming just out of the gate, without a lot of input from us, because I think we have, right, we're a bit of a beautiful mess, right? We move really quickly. We're a really small team. So at times it can be hard for us to package everything up and organize it. And I think that part of that is because 2/3 of the company is driven by the founders, and we innately have all of that data and the messaging and the brand stuff locked in that we don't ever really need to compile it into a brand book or a lot of those guidelines. So I would say just coming out of the gate, it was impressive because you brought a style and you helped us kind of develop a point of view as far as being consistent and kind of telling the same story. But what I thought has been really great is twofold. One, your openness and alertness to what we're telling you and the nuance about our business, right? So Pixilated isn't any other photo booth company. We do two things differently than the whole industry. We don't staff anything, and everything we do is self-service, right? So it's like shipped to you, which is totally a weirdo thing for a lot of people. And the other says we don't print. And those are the kind of things where if you were working with a lot of freelancers or a lot of agencies, they would hit you with a broad brush, and they would just write everything like the rest of the way the whole industry works. And for us, that would be erroneous and a huge problem. So for one, I think that the intelligence at Email Desire is there, but the interest to make sure that you're doing good work is really there. And then the other side of it that has been amazing is, yesterday's email is a perfect example of it, right? Yesterday's email was capitalizing on something that we had published 12 hours previously, right? So that sense that you're there riding with us, seeing what our brand is doing, understanding how we're moving on a day-to-day basis, and not needing to get us, guys, can we talk about this or can we do it, right? Like self-sufficiency, being able to be like, this is a great part of the story. We know. And like all the time we introduce these things, right? And probably what's going to happen is we're going to take yesterday's email and we're going to figure out, right? Like you and Nick and I will chat a little bit and decide, okay, where does this go into our flows? Because it's a very like educational piece of content that people are going to like. So that's what I would have to say. Like out of the box, they're great, but the recipe gets richer and richer every month that we continue to work together.
Yeah, I agree. That's really good to hear from you. What would you say to somebody that's on the fence about working with Email Desire right now?
I mean, I would say don't hesitate, for one. Our relationship with Sulo and with Email Desire through this whole thing has been completely above board, right? So it's never felt shady. It's never felt like we need to hold our cards close. And that's challenging. That's one of the most challenging things about working with freelancers or with agencies is when you don't feel like you could trust them and you have to kind of keep things under your hat from an ownership perspective. And not only does that just suck from a psychological perspective, but it keeps both of us from being great at what we're trying to do when you have to do that. So that would be like kind of like the obvious thing. But the other side of it is, and we were very transparent, I think with you about this as well as with each other, and knowing that, like our initial terms were to work together for a 60-day period. And if after that, it wasn't something that was sustainable for us, or it wasn't something that we felt like we could continue to see value in, that that we weren't tied into something. So from our perspective, we knew that, like you had convinced us that the quality of what you could bring to a lot of that like flow work would be completely worth that investment. And if beyond that, it didn't sustain, then that would be fine. Like that would have been really worth our investment in the time and money. And as it proved out, like it has been a huge asset for us to continue that relationship and make sure that it carries on. So, I mean, I would say don't hesitate because, like it's not a like a 10-year long commitment, and what you're going to get every single month for what you're investing in it, that return is going to be there.
Well, thank you so much for the kind words, and I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day to actually hop on for this quick interview.
You got it, Sulo.